First and foremost technique of writing clean code is to name things properly. In this episode of Clean Code Ninja series, we will learn about why names matter, rules of writing good names for variables, constants, and properties in order to enhance the quality of our code. In the end, we will use the concepts learned in this video to transform a bad code into clean code. So before moving ahead, please subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss any new videos in the series. Now let's get started. Please pause the video and have a look at the code on the screen and try to understand what it does. Did you understand what this code does? Most probably not. Now let's look at a different version of the same code. Please pause the video and try to understand what this one does. Now from this code, you can clearly understand that this code is for calculating factorial of a given number. The working of both these code snippets is same, but the only difference is that the second version of code is using good names. That's the power of using good names in your code. Using good names allows readers to understand the code without going into the details. Consider these examples. In all three examples, it's pretty clear what this code does. We don't need to dig into the other part of code just to understand these snippets. That's why names matter. So before writing good names, we need to understand what is considered a good name in programming. When it comes to naming things in programming, there is only one rule to follow. That is, names should be meaningful. Whenever you name something, no matter if it is a variable or a function or a class name, the name should be meaningful. It should show what the value a variable stores or what a function or a method does, without having to look at the code inside of that function or a method, or without exploring the value stored in the variable. In short, a name should show the intention. We have different rules for naming variables, functions, and classes. I will be covering variables, constants, or properties naming in this video. The other two will be covered in the next videos. Now let's dive in how we can write good names for variables, constants, and properties. Variables, constants, and properties are all data containers. We use these to store data in it. The data could be a user input or an input validation result or a list of product or even a single product, anything like that. For naming variables, constants, and properties, we typically want to use nouns or short phrases with adjectives, which describes what's inside of the data container. We can differentiate between three different types of values that can be stored in a variable, constant, or a property. It can be an object or related type like list, array, or anything like that. It can be a number or string, or it can be a boolean. If the value stored in variable is an object or related type, then the name assigned to variable should simply describe the value. For example, if the value stored in variable contains data related to user, then we can simply name this variable as user. When the value stored in variable is a number or a string, likewise in case of object, the name assigned to variable would describe the value. For example, if the value stored in variable contains the name of the user, then we can simply name this variable as name. Now in case when the value is boolean, we will name it a bit differently. The name given to boolean variables should be a question whose answer will be true or false. For example, is valid or logged in. Now for both is valid or logged in, the value stored will be true or false. So both these types of names can be used for boolean variables. When we are naming the variables, it's good to be as specific about the name as possible. But we also need to avoid redundant or extra information in the name. For example, if the user is a customer, then naming it as customer is a good name. But if we name it as customer data, it doesn't provide us with any value, as customer object will always have customer related data. Or if a boolean variable is named as is valid or logged in, then it's a good name. But if we write these names as is valid result or logged in result, then result is considered as an extra information. As it is just an extra information, it's not making the variable name more clearer or more understandable. Now let's transform the example displayed on the screen to clean and readable form. Here we have a code snippet that could use a bit of tidying up. It's not immediately clear what this function does, and the variable names also doesn't provide much context. Let's roll up our sleeves and get to work. Our first step is to understand what this function does. Looking at the code, it seems to find the maximum number from the array. We can make the code more self-explanatory by giving it meaningful names. For name of the function, we can use find maximum number, which concisely describes its purpose. Instead of using ARR, we will be using numbers to represent numbers list. As X is representing the current maximum number, which is updated when a new maximum number is found, we will name it as current maximum. At last, we will rename the loop index from Y to I. As you can see now, a little refactoring to names used in function have drastically made the code more readable and clean. And there you have it. We have successfully transformed a piece of dirty code into clean and well-structured function. By following clean code principles such as meaningful naming, we have not only made the code easier to understand but also more maintainable in the long run. Thank you for joining me in the lesson, and I'll encourage you to apply these principles to your own code base. Happy coding!